So this is iiSU, and if you saw my previous video where I looked at this update, you'll be aware of how amateurish it was. So let's take a proper look at iiSU. So let's get started. So here we have our setup screen. So I'm just going to go through this. It's quite straightforward. You can just answer all the questions as you would normally. So we'll enable iiSU DS. We are going to be switching over to the new iiSU mode once we've completed the setup wizard. Oh, there we go. We can do it straight from here. So this wasn't an option in the previous version that I originally tested. So it's good to know that you can now just set it straight from here. We'll leave it on the dark palette. Actually, no, we'll try the light palette. We'll make a change. And we'll use a grid. I'm going to keep everything on my internal storage. I'm going to choose my ROM folder, which is just my normal ROMs folder. There we go. Let that scan. And we've got some systems that it's detected, so I'm just going to have a quick scan through these and then make sure all my desired emulators are set. Okay, now I've done that, it's going to prepare the asset. So it's done some indexing in the background, so we don't actually have to do anything at this point. So this is our new setup screen. Hopefully you can see it this time. So this is basically the exact same as it was originally. However, it's just laid out a little bit differently. We've got these lovely big chunky buttons. So we'll go to our home apps. I'll just pin a couple of my usuals. I'll do Chrome. I'll do... what else do I normally have? I'll do Plex. I use Plex quite a lot. And I'll do Settings and Solid Explorer, which is my file explorer. So we'll just do those for now. For covers and scrapers, if you have accounts for any of these, then this is where you need to log in. Personally, I recommend getting both a SteamGrid DB account, which you do need an API key for. You just use your Steam account and then you log into their website. Screen Scraper you don't need an account for, as it does use a basic version of the API, but if you do have an account, you do get access to more scrapes per day, which is completely worth it. So I'm going to sign into those two. Personally, in my experience, I've tried IGDB and the GamesDB, and I've not been too impressed with their results. So these are the main two that you want to focus on, SteamGrid DB and Screen Scraper. We also have our RetroAchievements, which I fully recommend. It's one of my favourite features about retro gaming, is the fact that thanks to the geniuses at RetroAchievements, we can now unlock achievements on our favourite classic games. So now that's done, generate hashes will be automatically configured. What this will do is it will scan your files and get the hashes, and it will use that, compare it with the RetroAchievements database, and then any matching hashes it can pull the relevant achievements for. So next we have Link ESDE. So if, like myself, you are a user of ESDE or Emulation Station and you've already done all the scraping, then you can just import your existing scrapes. So I didn't do that last time, but for this I will be doing it. So let's just do that. So we're going to link our folder, find our folder, just the standard ESDE one, and we're going to hit use that folder and we're going to allow that. There we go, that's linked. So now let's look at ROMM. ROMM, for those of you who aren't aware, is a self-hosted ROM manager, which I did do a video on a while ago. It is more for advanced users if you self-host and run an instance of ROM. This won't appeal to the majority of you, but I will go through it anyway, and it can give you some more information if you're not familiar with it. So I'm just going to sign into my ROM server. Okay, next up we have our advanced appearance settings. So this is just to do with how iiSU displays a lot of the icons. So we can have things like ROM titles. So they'll show when you hover over the ROM. App titles will do the same. Console tooltips, so when you hover over your console folder, it'll pop up the name. Don't really need that. I quite like the glass outline. Quick access tooltips, yeah, we'll turn those on. And ROM or app tooltips, we'll probably leave those off. Don't really need those. We'll also connect our Discord. So I've connected my Discord, and basically that means that my friends will show on the friends list. And we're now going to enable our device notifications. So this will mean that any notifications that would normally go to the device itself will now display natively in iiSU. So it says here that because of restricted settings, it tells you how to do it. So I'm going to show you. So we'll press allow. And there we go. So because I've already set this up previously, I was able to just enable it. However, if you get something where it says that it's restricted, there's 3 little dots up here. You can tap that and allow restricted settings, and that will work for you. And if you want to just skip this initial setup, you can just come straight to the bottom. This should probably be at the top, in my opinion, because I didn't even notice it was there until now. But let's carry on. And then finally, it will just show you a little summary of the settings, the ROMs, all that good stuff. So let's enter iiSU. Okay, so here we are in iiSU. So already I can see that a difference from the version I was testing to the public release is we get this little notification if you're on a dual screen device that explains that you can swap the screens with Y and open the app drawer with B. So whilst you could swap the screens, it didn't actually tell you how to do it. I just stumbled across that, and the app drawer was not accessible with the B button. So I'll show you that shortly. So we've got nothing up top currently, because obviously we're going to need to get our games and our artwork and things like that. But if we press our Y button, it swaps screens. And compared to the version I was testing, it's a lot smoother. It's so much better. It did lag for a second on the support release. So good to know there's been a lot of fixes. Also, I have noticed as well is when hovering over these apps, iiSU categorizes apps into a few different categories. You've got apps, you've got emulators, and you've got Android for things like Android games. So I can see by hovering over the apps, the tooltip is actually showing what type of app it is, which is quite nice. So if I just press B, we can see our brand new app drawer. So this is really, really handy and much easier than having to go to the bottom and then find the category and then, oh, maybe you're not in the right one. So it's much easier to just press that B button and then quickly access your apps. So if I press my left trigger on my home screen, I can see my Discord friends. So shouts out to these guys, especially the Swest, who is one of the people behind iiSU. He's been working on it, and he also created what was formerly known as Thor copy, which allowed me to, on my older videos, record video out straight into OBS, which I'll be covering again in a future video. So make sure, if you're not already, that you subscribe. It really helps the channel. Also, if I press my right trigger, this is where our notifications live. So you can see here we've got 2 tabs. We have our iiSU specific ones, and then we have our main system ones. So I'll just clear those. But you can see I've got like James DSP active for making the Thor not sound like I'm in a tin can. Okay, so jumping over to our games, I can see that it has scanned my folders from my device. I can also see if I go over this way that it has scanned my folders from ROM. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually differentiate between the two at present, which is why it appears that there's duplicates. I don't remember having any IBM games, so I don't know where that's from. But the ROMM integration is very, very early. So just going through these, it doesn't appear to have actually pulled the metadata from my ESDE folder, so I'll show you how you can relink that and sync it. So just to show you how the ROMM integration works at present, it's very early, it's very, very buggy, and like I said, you can't really differentiate where the ROM folders are. So if I go to Game Boy Advance and I download a random game, we'll grab Big Mother Truckers, and I open it, it's going to download it from ROM, and then it's going to open it. So you can see very, very quickly, I was able to download a game straight from my server, and it's now downloaded locally. Very, very good to have this natively, but very, very early days. Just had a little bit of a bug there when quitting out of RetroArch. It didn't quite grab the focus for the bottom screen, so I had to tap it, and then I was able to move the buttons. But like I've said many times in many of these videos, this is an alpha, so bugs are to be expected. And if any of you do experience any bugs, do make sure that you let the developers know in the Discord so they can fix them. As someone who works in development as a full-time job, it's very frustrating when nobody tells you about problems, because if they don't tell you, you can't fix them. We're not Sidekick, not all of us. Going over to our achievements tab, we have, you can see my little gamer score card thing at the top screen there. And then we can also see achievements for games that I have been playing, sorted by most recent, I believe this is. So if we click into that, we can see we've got our little icons in the game, and you can see how far I am in that game. So I'm not the biggest Zelda fan, so that's why I've only got one achievement for getting the sword, literally 30 seconds in. So one thing I have noticed here is a little bit of a minor gripe, is that the text on the achievement description doesn't expand or scroll, so you might be missing some context for how to get the achievement. But like I said, very, very minor. So the friends list currently isn't active, so for our final tab, we have just our apps. And this is a tab that I think, because of the app launcher available at the B button, as I demonstrated earlier, this is now a bit redundant. If I'd recommend anything to the developers, I'd say that you should probably just be able to disable this at this point because it's no longer necessary. So let's dive into some settings. So I'm just going to press our start button. We can customize the home screen. You can change your layouts. You can save layouts and import them. I know that they were asking for people to share their home screen layouts, so I imagine that the Discord will have people sharing their layouts. We can customize how many rows if you'd prefer more rows. Minimal mode, not too sure exactly what minimal mode does. I believe it possibly disables little animations and things like that, so I'm gonna just disable it again. You can change your icon style to glass or simple. Simple looks like this, and glass gives it the background. So I don't mind the glass as such, especially it does help with planning widgets and things like that. So I'm just gonna re-enable it to glass. For widgets, we can add an Android widget. Now when I tried this, it just took me to the Android home screen, but now it seems to actually be working. So if I do just something simple, we'll do a now playing from my Plex amp. So whenever I'm playing some music in Plex amp, I'll be able to see my widget there. So it's nice to know that they've fixed this so I can actually showcase it a bit more. So one other way you can add widgets is if you just go to a blank space and you press your A button, you can add a specific game if you want to browse your library and pick a game. We'll go for Three Ninjas Kickback because that's pretty cool. It has crashed. Why has it crashed? Because it's an alpha. So when trying to add a widget, iiSU crashed on me and then keeps doing this every time I try and boot the app. So I will reset the installation and we'll pick up where we left off. So I've not added the Plex widget back just in case that was what was causing issues, and I've also not enabled Discord or ROMM because I've already shown the ROMM part of things. So let's try again. There we go. So I was able to add a game as a widget that time, although it doesn't appear to have pulled the artwork through, so I'll cover that shortly. So we can also add an achievements widget. It's very basic at the moment. Basically, we place it down, and then if we give it a tap, we can choose a game. Now, I've got one with actual artwork on it. Not yet. But there you go. You can see it pulls that game and the achievements for it, which very basic. I'd like it to be more responsive to your last played game, or maybe some that you want to pin per system, perhaps, or just something a bit more substantial. But like I keep saying, this is an alpha. These things will come in due time. So finally for widgets, we have our playtime activity widget. So if I add this, then any games I load up will show. I have found that the widget dropping is a little bit inconsistent, so I have to fully back out before it'll register. And we can also show our jump back widget and our been a while widget. So a glorious mess at the moment. So if we press our start button and then go left to our settings, we can get into our main iiSU settings. So there's some quality of life stuff here that you can customize to your liking. You can restart the onboarding if you want to reset things. You can refresh all the metadata from here. You can export logs, which is very handy if you want to help support the developers in ensuring that they capture all the bugs. You can rotate the main display. It's probably more worthwhile if you're on a phone. I don't know what it actually do on a dual screen device. Let's find out. Not a whole lot. You can also customize your language and your default launch page. So for appearance, this is where we can customize our themes. You can also customize your fonts. The original font was the Arctanium, which I wasn't a huge fan of. I really do like the new Cal Sans font. I think it's a lot cleaner. Console Sans is okay, probably a little bit too big and chunky for my liking, but I do like Cal Sans. You can also customize your layouts, kind of like you did on the onboarding, but if you want to go back and change things, then this is how you would do it. You can add a little bit of wobble to the title image, which is kind of like an old DS or a 3DS, which is always very nice. So in our media and background, you can also choose to disable the hero images, which is like the kind of big artwork that's usually on the top screen. You can make the title images bigger. You can have retro achievement heroes, which I think is just the retro achievement logo. There's also an option to disable video backgrounds, but I've not been able to get video backgrounds to work. So that's probably something that will be more substantial in a future update. And then you can customize your tooltips, your dual screen. You can also customize your retro achievement icons. There's just some options here, so have a play around with those. Now the main thing I wanted to cover here was libraries. So we have our game library. So if you want to add additional folders, then you can do that here. You can also add how many levels you want the folder scanner to scan. If you have folders within folders within folders, then you'd probably want to add or increase this limit. For media, it's only downloaded 4.8 meg of media, and we have some cached. We also have our retro achievements, so you can clear the generated hashes if you want to restart that. Now for scraping, you can start a scrape from here. You can also enable aggressive scraping, which it usually means it widens the search scope a little bit. Can potentially help you find missing images, but it could also lead to incorrect images for other games. So do be wary of that. So for linking our ESDE, let's reload that folder. There we go, that's giving it a proper scan. I don't want to use the physical media as an icon, so hopefully when we back out now, it should look better. You can also configure Discord from here as well. For audio, you can customize your music. I'm going to turn the music off because I don't like music on my front ends. So you can enable haptics. It says weak. I actually quite like the haptics. There is obviously I can't really demonstrate this on video. There is a noticeable difference, but it's still quite subtle. Or you can just turn them off, but I like having a little bit of haptic feedback. You can customize your inputs and things like that. You can set your app drawer shortcut to be a different key. You can swap your A and B, X and Y buttons. You can swap your screen swap button, any of that good stuff. And for performance, if you want to enable low power mode, for example, if you want to save yourself a little bit of battery, then that will disable a lot of the animations and things like that. But from my experience, the battery drain hasn't been too substantial on this. It's something I tend to leave off. And then finally we have our about section. You can see here that I'm on version 0.0.7.2. Okie dokie, so let's have a look at our games folder. Now we should have some actual artwork. So here we are in my PS2 games folder. So you can see that we've now actually got some artwork, and you can also see our little retro achievements pop up in the bottom right of the top screen. So if we press our X button, we get that same achievements menu, which is nice and handy. If you want to customize a specific folder, you can hover over any folder and press your select button, and then you can manage the name, you can set the ROMs, you can edit the settings. So for example, if you wanted to change your emulator, this is how you do it. So I'm going to leave that, but if I wanted to change it from Azahar to RetroArch, for example, or one of these that I've never even heard of, then you could do so. I'm going to leave it on Azahar. You can also customize your default. So if you wanted to always launch games from this folder in your top screen, you can do so. Don't know how this would actually affect DS and 3DS games, so feel free to have a play around with that and then let me know in the comments. And make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. So as well as customizing our folders, we can also customize our games or individually scrape them if they are missing the correct data. So to do this, if we go into my 3DS folder, for example, you'll see that for the most part, I've got artwork. However, I've got a few that for some reason haven't pulled through properly. So we'll go to Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, and I'm going to press my select button, and then I'm going to go over to scrape, and then you can pick a specific scraper. I'm going to pick SteamGrid DB, and then you can overwrite a specific image if there's one that's missing, or in this case, it hasn't got any, so I'm just going to do only missing, and then this should, hopefully, download some assets. So there we go, nice and easy. So you can see we've got our hero image, our logo, and our icon, and it took seconds. If you have custom images, then you can just go to the Manage option, and then you can replace what's already there, pressing your A button, and then you can import images that you've downloaded yourself. So finally, I also want to show you how to make collections. So to make a collection, we're going to find an empty space, we're going to press our Start button, and then we're going to go all the way down to Create New Collection. Then we're going to press A and give it a name. So for example, if I wanted to make a Pokemon collection, then I'll make a collection there, press B to quit out, and then there we go, it's made it all the way over here for some reason, so I'm just going to press and hold and drag it back to that first page. Still a little bit finicky with some of the UI stuff, but it's a beta, or an alpha in this case, so it's even before a beta. So once you've got your collection, you can customize it. So if you hover over, like we've done before, and press your select button, then you can change the size, If you want a big folder for some reason, that looks weird. You can change the images. Unfortunately, you can't scrape images directly and use those yet. So again, to the developers, I'd advise that that would be a great option. But for now, you can just import images that you've downloaded elsewhere outside of iiSU. So to add games to a collection, we're going to go over to a console. On our games menu, we'll go for Game Boy Advance. We'll find some Pokemon games. Where are they? There we are. I've got Emerald, I've got Fire Red and Leaf Green, which hasn't been scraped, annoyingly. I'm going to hover over. I'm going to press select. I'm going to go add to collection. I'm going to tick Pokemon. Obviously, if you've got multiple collections, you can see them all here. And if you want to add the same game to multiple collections, you can just toggle from this menu here. So I'll do it a couple more times. Let's add some DS ones as well. And if I go back to my home, you can see on my folder, I've got the games I added broken down by console, which looks great. Unfortunately, it is very manual at the moment. However, I would like to see in future updates the ability to use smart folders or regular expression, anything like that, to have a little bit more automated control over your collections. So here we have iiSU 0.0.7.2 running on a single screen device. This is the ODIN 3. So in terms of how it operates, it's pretty much the same as the dual screen version. Obviously, you don't have the ability to switch screens. But if we just take a look at how our games list is displayed, we've got the hero images layered underneath the games list, which I really like as a look. We also have this nice, chunky, full screen app launcher. Pressing the B button down here is designed to go back, which obviously is a conflict. So just a little UI bug. Nothing major. Get it sorted, lads, come on. And there we are, a better look at the newest version of iiSU. Better in terms of features and better in terms of my professionalism when it comes to framing and also focusing. If you've watched the previous one and you also watched this one, thank you so much for coming back. I hope I didn't scare you away with my amateurish filmmaking skills. If you like this video, I would always appreciate a like and a subscribe. Make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already, because I'll be doing loads more AYN Thor videos in the coming months. So stay tuned. See you next time.